the U.S. has reached the deadline for U.S. government agencies to get rid of TikTok on federal devices and systems. Chinese tech giant ByteDance owns TikTok, and there are concerns that the app could be used to spy on Americans and put national security at risk. Now, Congress ordered the ban on federal devices late last year, and last month, the White House gave federal agencies 30 days to ditch TikTok on all government-issued devices. That deadline came on Wednesday. I am joined now by Lindsay Gorman, Senior Fellow for Emerging Technologies at the German Marshall Fund's Alliance for Security Democracy. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Lindsay, if we look at Europe, they're actually slightly ahead of the U.S. in terms of the timeline here. They had a deadline that passed on March 20th, but apparently some parliament ministers are keeping TikTok on their personal devices. Is that safe?
I don't think it is for government officials to be keeping TikTok on their devices. Now, there is a distinction between their personal and their work devices. Most of the bans that we've seen, including the one that came in effect this week in the United States, involve government officials' work devices. And in that case, there's really no excuse for having TikTok on your government device. Last I checked, U.S. government officials weren't conducting official business on TikTok. And really, I would say any authoritarian app from authoritarian countries such as China or Russia should not be on work devices of government officials. When it comes to personal devices, I think the concern is perhaps a little more tenuous because I think the real cybersecurity concern is that TikTok collects a lot of data on individual phones, including potentially data from outside of the app. There have been reports of in-app browsing, but certainly if you download an app on your phone, you're not necessarily excluding it from collecting data from outside that app itself. So I think that's sort of the acute concern with the work phones. But then there is definitely the threat of communications on personal phones being subject to espionage and blackmail. And so for people in positions of public trust, I do think there is a threat even on personal devices that maybe some of the more private communications that you would only send on your personal device and not on your work device could become compromised by having an app such as TikTok on your personal phone.
Yeah, I appreciate that distinction. And when we talk about a TikTok ban, we know Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul blocked a vote on the Senate floor on Wednesday for a nationwide ban. But we've been watching bills being introduced in Congress in recent months, and several House Democrats have also voiced their objections, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Just a few days ago, she actually made her very first TikTok to talk about TikTok. Let's listen quickly together.
Do I believe TikTok should be banned? No. Why should TikTok not be banned? First of all, I think it's important to discuss how unprecedented of a move this would be. The United States has never before banned a social media company from existence, from operating in our borders. And this is an app that has over 150 million Americans on it.
So help us explain, what is the danger? What is the concern? Because I think government devices make sense to just about everyone. Why does it matter if China wants to spy on an average American?
Well, I think there are two real concerns, and a lot of them tend to come out in the aggregate, where for most Americans who maybe are not in positions of access to sensitive information, I think it is a little bit harder to see the direct link to the risk at the individual level. But when you take the data from an entire population, as AOC mentioned, the 150 million users that TikTok has been reporting as its number of users in the United States, that becomes the scale of that ability to both collect information and data on Americans and also use that data to target them with propaganda that may be what the Chinese Communist Party wants us to see and potentially downranking the content that the Chinese Communist Party would not want us to see. That is an incredibly powerful tool precisely because of that scale. So at the individual level, I think the concern really is about, their data that is sensitive that you wouldn't want in the hands of the Chinese government, in the hands of a geopolitical rival that is targeting the United States with espionage, with intellectual property. But you might say, well, I don't really have any access to anything that the Chinese government want. And then I think the concern really becomes more on the second point about the ability to target Americans with propaganda.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.